Coach Prime's 5-year contract extension. How much of a recruiting impact will that make?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at 5-Hour Energy. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery store or convenience store. Stock up today and stay energized. Coach Prime signs a 5-year extension with the Colorado Buffaloes. What does that do for recruiting? And of course, we got to talk about the ridiculous NCAA and their ruling for Colorado and Syracuse not to be able to have a joint spring game. To make all these things happen, Kevin Borba, Locked On Buffs. Kevin, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's start with the positives here.
Yep.
Deion's 5-year deal. I'll admit right off the bat, and I think most people thought when he first got the Colorado gig, stay 2-3 years, then find something else is what most people thought. It's not as easy to win at CU as it is other programs. What were your first initial thoughts when he took the job? And then after, you follow it daily. Did your opinion of him staying change after year 1, year 2, or anything in between?
My initial thought was, yes, content. No, I'm just kidding. My initial thought was, what a tremendous investment from Colorado, right? I think a lot of people, you look at the money aspect from the outside and you go, why is he a top 5 highest paid coach in college football? Why is he the highest paid coach in the Big 12? And they have to make that move if you're Colorado, right? Everything he's done, it's not just on the field. He's brought in hundreds of millions of dollars to the local economy. They've seen a 20% increase in school applicants. Like, he has totally revolutionized how people view, especially young people, which are the people that matter in the college space, how they view Colorado, right? It has completely changed everything. And the program is headed in a good direction, right? They were not a really bad performance against Kansas away from playing in the Big 12 title, playing for a college football playoff spot. So they are headed in a good direction, and keeping him long-term, I was equally, I won't say surprised, because I think so many people were saying he was going to leave. He kind of wanted to prove everyone wrong. Like, that feels like a very Prime thing to do, where it's like, you guys said I would leave and I didn't. But I do think it kind of shows that he's invested, right? And we've been questioning him for 2 years now. It's like, okay, what is he going to do when his kids leave? Because that was the big question, right? He got into coaching because of his kids. He kind of dipped his toes into the NFL water and was like, hey, I'd like to coach my kids again. And the opportunity didn't present itself. And so now he's in college football, which is good for Colorado. It's good for college football, and it's good for the Big 12. So really, really big investment, but it's one that they had to make. And in terms of where my reactions, I was like, oh, okay, he's serious about this, right? I think that was the biggest question, was he serious about coaching college football outside of his kids?
That was where I thought it would end. And I totally get it. I'm not like, oh, that's terrible. No, like, okay, if he's got all the money, he's a Hall of Famer. I've had the opportunity to be around him a couple of times, like Under Armour events way back in the day. He's a pretty basic guy, believe it or not, top down. I'm not surprised that he made that decision to stick around, because he likes being around players, but he could have went, if he wanted, to go follow his kid and just go to games.
Yeah.
He could have called any of the Fox or ESPN or any, and said, you know what, how about you have me on the sidelines once? Are they going to say no?
Right.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But he chose to stick around in Boulder, and I think it's kind of cool. I really do, because it's an interesting thing now that you can say as a staff, like, look, he's committed to this. And you and I have talked about on your show many times, they went the portal route. That's not any news flash. By far the heaviest of any team in the country. I think it's going to impact recruiting in a positive way. And I give you 2 points. Number one, parents, just like anybody else with something they care about, they want security with it. Well, if you send your kid off to school, Colorado basically recruits out of state, they want to know the guy is going to be there that recruited him. That box has now been checked. You signed a 5-year deal. And again, he could have went anywhere. Number two, what you said, they've actually proven they can win, and a heck of a lot quicker than many of us thought. So winning matters. That's kind of no brainer. And then also, again, the parents are going to say, okay, he's committed. I think they're going to see a little bit of a lift in recruiting. But here's the bigger question. You're closer to the program, so I'll turn this to you, Kevin. Do you think Deion, because he is committed to the program, do you think he will recruit the high school ranks harder moving forward after the extension being signed?
I don't know if they're going to bring in like 35 member classes. I do think that they're going to take larger swings at like 4 and 5 star recruits. And I think you're going to see a lot of them hit, right? I think that's kind of been, there's been a young lad by the name of Winston Watkins Jr. I know you know him quite well. He was the very first Colorado commit. Like Deion Sanders takes the job. And then I want to say it was the next day or the day after, right? He commits to Colorado. And it was like, oh my gosh, Colorado lands a 5 star. He was a 5 star at the time. And then he ultimately decommitted and was like, honestly, I don't know if he's going to be there. Right. And like you mentioned, right, recruits want to know that. And it makes me laugh because there's this old adage where it's like, don't commit to a coach, commit to the program, commit to the school. Like no one does that. Right. Everyone wants to go.
Hardly ever. It's rare.
Yeah. Like no, unless it's like Stanford, for instance, like they'll go to Stanford, get their degree, and then they'll leave or whatever it is. Right. But Winston Watkins was one of the first guys to kind of say it out loud publicly. And so now, all these top recruits aren't going to be viewed as martyrs where it's like, oh my gosh, do I go to Colorado? I don't know if he's going to be there, right? He has a big buyout. His buyout is $12 million next year. And it goes down every year, obviously, but he is going to be at Colorado, at least for the foreseeable future. So for those top recruits, I think they take Colorado more seriously, right? And I think the only challenge he'll run into recruiting now is some guys just want to play in the SEC. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge he faces. That's always going to be a thing. But the constant questions or the negative recruiting from other programs where it's like, hey, he's going to leave, like he's not going to be there, that ended. Like that is no longer a thing.
I think you hit it on the head. The biggest concern is on paper in the other direction. It's no longer a concern. It's a plus factor. Like you put that checkbox in there, then it opens doors for kids that he otherwise, they would have even gotten, Kevin, an official visit from.
Right.
Now, again, assuming they prioritize it more, you go get, let's say, half and half. Because, like, again, the state of Colorado is not exactly high school football Armageddon. It's not top of the board. So they got to go out of state. It's hard.
Yeah.
But you get 2 or 3 kids in state a year, and you go out and get half dozen kids from Texas. Obviously, he's got strong roots in that state. And he gets some of the Southeast kids he also has roots with. You can get 15 kids a year that are not just good, but they know and they're going to buy in. They're not as likely to leave. You can have some stability at Colorado.
Yeah.
I never saw that coming. And then when I saw that extension announced, I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
This really changes not only CU, but it changes the Big 12 because, again, they, like you said, they were on the cusp of winning the Big 12 last year. And I get, okay, they had 2 megas. I get it. But they developed some other guys. Some people are like, who's that? They develop those players. They can sell things that they've done beyond his son and stuff like that. I think they're headed in the right direction. Now, speaking of in the right direction, debatable on the next part. We're going to talk about one more thing, and I give Deion credit, Coach Fran Brown credit for coming up with the idea with the spring, possible like spring game or scrimmage or whatever. But the NCAA, Kevin, I've got a lot of opinions on this, and I think you do too. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NCAA's decision to not allow Colorado and Syracuse to get together. That is here on Locked on the Portal. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie, and when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear, wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada PRO-4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada PRO-4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets Win your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on anything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. For me, it's about Cinderella stories and those special players that come out of nowhere to have big games. You can always place a wager on something similar to halftime scores, of course, the final score, but there are players and other prop bets as well, and it's easy. The FanDuel app will be very easy for you to use. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Kevin, the NCAA sucks. I just want to start with that, brother.
End it there. Just end the show there.
For those of you that are watching on YouTube, I'm just going to put this statement up and you can look at it here. But the baseline here is very simple. The NCAA said no for Fran Brown from Syracuse and Deion Sanders from Colorado getting together and having some joint scrimmage stuff, 11-on-11, etc. And here are a couple of the talking points. Number one, the timing of the request, like they did it so late or something. Noting most institutions have already planned their spring practice and some are at the end of or have completed their spring practice. Number two, this is the one I think some other schools, not just the NCAA, probably got involved with. And it says the competitive and recruiting advantage gained by the applicant institutions if a waiver was approved to allow these institutions to engage in activities no other institutions are permitted to do. So in other words, these other coaches didn't want Deion having recruits around. That's really the bottom end with this. I guarantee you that phone was ringing. Finally, this is the one that's hilarious. The potential academic impact associated with student athletes missing class time to participate in practice activities. Let me summarize that third one up for you. Kevin, what tournament is it that's going on right now? What can you remember?
It's this little niche thing called March Madness.
Those kids are missing class every day, bro. And they've been doing it for decades and decades and decades. But this one spring practice thing, this for one school against another, look out.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous, right? We'll sort of work backwards. The class thing makes me laugh because Fran Brown, when he tweeted, obviously I don't know what the details would have been had it come together, but he said they'd come out there for 3 days. I imagine it'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So they miss 1 day of class, and let's be real, most athletes don't have class on Fridays, and if they do, it's probably online. So the class thing, ridiculous, right? I think, plus also, I don't know if everyone remembers, there was like this global pandemic thing where myself and thousands or millions of other students, we did school online, right? So maybe hop on the old iPad, hop on the old laptop, and crank out a discussion post where they go, yeah, I agree with you, Kevin. Thank you for sharing your insight. Like that's majority of what these classes do anyway. So the academic side, depressing, total BS there. The competitive advantage thing, I understand why other programs wouldn't want it, right? But this idea has been out there, right? Deion Sanders, I don't know why it gained so much traction this year, but he said this last year too. So everyone has had a year or so to sort of come up with an idea of doing this, right? It's ironic that it's unfair when Deion Sanders suggested, but I bet you if, say, a program like Oregon or Texas suggested it, it'd be like, oh, what a great idea, right? It's one of those things where I feel like who the messenger is played a factor, right? Because they don't think it's fair. Because Colorado Spring Games, it's already an event, right? They had concerts, they have like a full-on sort of, it's not just you show up for a half-hearted scrimmage and then you leave, right? It's an event. It's a spectacle. So I see why programs wouldn't want that. I think the NCAA is getting in their own way, right? Because if the NCAA wanted, they could have been like, yeah, we'll do this. We're going to take a chunk of the profits or however that works, right? Because the NCAA, right, they kind of are the governing body, apparently, allegedly, when they want to be.
Sort of it.
Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah. And then the other reason of just simply too late, it didn't make sense to me because Colorado Spring Games the 19th. I don't know when Syracuse is, but it said other programs have already done theirs. And it's like, okay, great. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know. Like, I'm sorry you, like Arizona State just started or is finishing up, right? Sorry you live in the desert, or like programs that did it early. Sorry your season finished so early that you could hop into spring right away. Like, I don't understand why that matters. But I'll just say this, the NCAA got in the way of a great idea for the sport. It would have saved a tradition because I've been talking about this a lot on my show. We're heading to college football being NFL light, where it's like we model everything after the NFL. And whether it's the free agency, whether it's the playoff, whether it's the sort of super conference that's going to happen. And so spring games were one of the fun traditions where it's like, we don't get college football until August 29th or 30th after next month, right? So this would have been a fun twist on a fun tradition where teams around the country are killing their spring game, right? So the NCAA took that away, right? And so they took away an awesome opportunity for two programs not in the SEC or Big Ten to have some attention. They took away an opportunity for young men to sort of boost their brand, get experience, right? Because some practice players or some players, Brian, you know this as well as anyone, when they play against another team, they are just better. It is what it is. Like some dudes suck at practice, and sometimes just going up against someone with a different helmet sticker is the difference. And so they took away an opportunity for young men. And then also, it would have been a really cool historical moment. Deion Sanders, Fran Brown, two African-American coaches making history, and they took away history. So really, really disappointing execution or decision by the NCAA. But are we shocked? No. I think this is sort of the motto for the NCAA is like ruin anything that we think could be good.
Well said. First off, well said. I think the whole idea of the spring game, the one extra thing that you brought up, it's cool, but the profitability, let me add a little to that. Who really makes the decisions? It's advertisers and TV networks. Mm-hmm. Do you really think that NBC or Fox or whatever, I don't know how a spring game would work or who would have the affiliation for it, but anybody would have wanted those guys because A, there's nothing else like it. Yeah. There's not a lot of content in mid-March for football, like none. Yeah. And finally, you've got famous coaches because Fran, got to give him credit, had a great year last year at Syracuse, and Syracuse was terrible before he got there. And then on top of that, it's Deion Sanders.
Right. And Colorado's spring game, sorry to cut you off, is already scheduled to be on ESPN too. So I don't really know. Perfect. I don't really know what the NCAA, like Syracuse said they would fly out. So I imagine they're doing it on their dime, right? I'm sure they plan it around their academic calendar. I don't really know like what the NCAA was concerned about because I imagine these two programs could have figured it out, right? Is there not a holiday coming up pretty soon that we all are well aware of, like next month called Easter, right? Don't they get spring break sometime? Like we could have figured it out. But hey, the NCAA likes to do things their way.
Just absolutely mind-boggling. It really is. The NCAA finds a way to shoot itself in the foot, but It is what it is. Yeah. Kevin, tell everybody where they can find your work, sir.
Yeah, I'm at Locked On Buffs. We're recording episodes every single day, talking about everything Deion Sanders, everything Colorado, and then I'm also over at Athlon Sports, and I cover all things college football, college basketball. So go check me out.
Appreciate it, sir. You can find everything here on the Portal Podcast, Odyssey, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Just check us out. We're here every day. Like and subscribe. Everybody have a good one. Take care.